there's something all of us probably hate, and that is being stuck on the side of the road. Now, that's not fun for anybody. I don't care how good of a person they want to be at experiencing new things. That's not something that's fun at all, having to wait for a tow truck for possibly hours, or maybe for a friend to come and pick you up. But I have found a way to ensure that you can avoid ever being broken down on the side of the road in a Chrysler product. Now, you may ask, how in the world can you do that? There are some very simple things. One, don't ever buy one. You may ask, well, why shouldn't somebody buy a Chrysler product? Well, there are multiple reasons, but today I'll give you just a few which you should be aware of. First one, probably the most notorious thing about them, is they're known for their transmissions going out. Now, any vehicle you buy has a chance of the transmission going out, but the Chryslers are especially known for their transmissions going out. Whenever people often buy used vehicles, and one thing you should ask if you ever were going to consider buying a Chrysler is ask if the transmission has been replaced. Now, if it has, you're probably safe for a little while. But if it hasn't, you can pretty much expect in the time that you own the vehicle to have to replace that transmission. For whatever reason, it seems that Chrysler just cannot find a transmission that will go above 100,000 miles. This is something you need to consider. Do you really want to have to set aside money just to be able to replace a transmission in a vehicle when you didn't do anything wrong? They have some good motors in some of their vehicles, such as the 5.9 and things like that, but they just, for whatever reason, can't find a transmission to be able to hold up to those good motors. Another thing that is bad about them is they have a very poor design. This ranges from all aspects, from how close the alternator is to the main computer, to how complicated it is just to be able to even change the spark plugs in one of these vehicles. Used to, back in the 90s, early 2000s, there was room in a vehicle. I know a guy that had an 80s model Dodge, and he could crawl up in there and sit down beside the motor to be able to work on it. And he was no small man. But as time has gone on, things have gotten more complicated. Their design is very poor. You have to take out half of the engine block, top part of the engine, just to be able to get to the spark plugs. That is very problematic because you either have to be a skilled mechanic or you have to pay somebody. And in order for them to do it, you have to pay them quite well. So this is another thing that needs to be taken into consideration. If you can't work on it yourself, you better be rich so you can pay somebody else to work on it. And some of the designs have been known to cost people money. They've had to replace the computer. And then the next thing you know, the alternator goes out and they have to replace the computer again. Now, who would want to do that? Who would want to buy a vehicle that is designed so poorly? Another thing is they're very cheaply made. They seem to try to stay in business by cutting corners where they can. Even their top-of-the-line models still feel cheap, plasticky when you're inside. They do have some things that are nice, but they tend to cut corners just to be able to sell the vehicle. And how long will this plastic be able to hold up? Even in their top-of-the-line models, their leather is a fake leather. All of their knobs and switches are very flimsy. So why would you want to spend thousands of dollars on a vehicle that won't last, one that won't hold up? From their trucks to their cars, SUVs, minivans, all of them, just quite cheaply made. not very dependable at all. They got themselves into such a financial bind that they had to file for bankruptcy, and the government had to bail them out. So, in a sense, they couldn't even keep up, even with their cutting the corners. And their vehicles really aren't worth the money. So, since no one likes to be broken down on the side of the road in a vehicle, here are some things that you should know and some reasons why you should never buy any Chrysler product. Their transmissions are bad. Can't keep up with their motors. No matter how good the motor is, usually the transmission goes. And you have to spend at least $2,000 on that to get that fixed. They're poorly designed. The insides of them, the mechanics of them under the hood, the spacing of things, everything is so tight you have to tear half the motor apart just to go to fix one simple little thing. And they're very cheaply made. Now, even in their luxury packages, it's still, you can tell, they try to cut corners. So, with those reasons, if you avoid buying a Chrysler, and if you avoid riding with someone that owns a Chrysler, you will never again be broken down on the side of the road in any Chrysler product.